Hi everyone, so here is the video I promised of me going over the 10 problems that you guys had for homework. Okay, I'm going to try and zoom in as best as I can so you guys can see it clearly and I have enough room. So, number one is the simple one, right? A is 1, so we're already in standard form, so I can go ahead and start solving. So I'm going to come over here and list A equals 1, B equals 5, and C equals 4. Now what we can do is go ahead and multiply A times C. In this case, A times C is 4. Okay? Now we have a positive A times C and a positive B. So all we have to do is list the positive factors of 4. So those include 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Now that we have the factors, we have to go ahead and choose which one of those we could add up to get 5. So that's an obvious. 1 plus 4 is obviously 5. All right, so then, now remember when we have A equals 1, so when A equals 1, write 2 sets of parentheses and begin each with an X, then fill in the factor pairs you chose. So the factor pair you chose. Okay? So that's your little hint. So when A is 1, so A checks out to be 1. So we're going to write 2 sets of parentheses. We're going to begin each parenthesis with an X. And then we're just going to fill in the factor pair that we chose. So it's a positive 1 and a positive 4. But what's important is to make sure we keep this equal to 0. Okay? And at this point, right here, we now have the zero product property. Remember that the zero product property states that if the zero product property makes us able to set each of the parentheses equal to 0. Okay? So now that both are set to 0, we can go ahead and solve, okay? So in this first one, in order to get x by itself, all we need to do is subtract 1 from each side. These ones will cancel out, and we are left with x equals -1. We're going to do the same idea on the right side, but now we're just going to subtract 4 from each side, okay? These 4's cancel out, my x comes down, and I'm left with x equals -4. And those are our 2 solutions for question number 7. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one. So if you need time, you could pause and re-listen. All right, on to number 8. So here we have x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. So this is in standard form. All right, so what we can do is go ahead and list my a, b, and c. So a is equal to 1, b is equal to -3, and c is equal to -4. So now that we've listed A, B, and C, we can go ahead and multiply A times C, which in this case is 1 times -4, which gives me a -4. Then we need to go ahead and list the factors. Remember, when we have a negative A times C, you have to list both sets of pairs. What I mean by that is 1 and -4 and -1 and 4. And then 2 and -2. We don't have to write them like this because that's the same thing. Okay, so you only have to write one of those. All right, so we need to go ahead and choose which one of these factor pairs adds up to give me a -3. And that would be 1 and -4. So now that we picked our factor pairs, we can go ahead and realize that A is equal to 1. So we're going to use that tip that I showed you in the last time. And when A equals 1, I can immediately draw 2 sets of parentheses. I'm then going to go ahead and begin each parenthesis with an X. All right? Then my next step is to fill in the factor pair that I chose. And when we're completing these, make sure that 0 stays there. All right? So once again, here we have the zero product property. And with the zero product property, we can go ahead and set each of the parentheses to 0. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1 from both sides. The ones are going to cancel out, and you're left with x equals -1. On the other side, that's a -4, so we have to add 4 to both sides, okay? So these will cancel out, and we are left with x equals 4. And here we have our two solutions. So these would be our two answers for number 8. Okay? All right. If you need any help, you could pause and keep looking at that one, but I am going to go on to the next one, okay? So we have another one like that, all right? So here, we are in standard form already, okay? So once we're in standard form, I can go ahead and list A, B, and C. So A equals 1, B equals 8, C equals 9, -9. So then I'm going to go ahead and multiply. All right, A times C. And in this case, A times C is -9. All right, now we have a negative number, so I need to list both factors. All right, so 1, -9, -9, -1, 9, and same thing with the 3, so a 3 and a -3. You do not have to write the next set because they will be the same thing. And then what you're going to go ahead and do is find which one of these adds up to give you a positive 8, and that is -1 and 9. All right? So go ahead, A equals 1, so you could write 2 sets of parentheses. Make sure you keep that 0. Begin each parenthesis with an x, and then add in. So x minus 1, x plus 9. Here, 0 product property. So go ahead and set each of these parentheses equal to 0. Okay? And then you're just going to go ahead and solve. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides on this and get x equals 1. And then I'm going to subtract 9 from these, cancels, and you get x equals -9. So these are your two solutions for number 9. Okay? So those 3 are pretty easy. You guys should kind of get the hang of those pretty quick. The next ones are a bit more challenging, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and move over to number 10. So here, we are already in standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and list A, B, and C. So A equals 2, B equals 2, and C equals -40. All right? So go ahead and multiply A times C. I get a -80. Now remember, when we have negative A times C, you have to list both factors. So I'm going to go ahead and start listing those. So we have 1 and -80 and -1 and 80. I'm going to write them side to side to save room. Okay? Then I have 2 and -40 and -2 and 40. Now remember how to find factors by taking the number, so in this case -80, and dividing it by each number. So divide by 1, divide by 2, divide by 3. And if you get a whole number, then you know it's a factor. All right? So the next one is 4 and -20, -4 and 20, 5 and -16, -5 and 16. I'm sorry, let me rewrite that. That was 20. And then the last one is 8 and -10, and -8 and 10. So those are our factors. So I want you to go ahead and choose which one of those adds up to give me a positive 2. And that is this factor pair right here. Now, A is not 1 here, it's 2. So now is when we need to use our strategy of grouping. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and group. I'm going to write the original part in black, and then I'll add the other factors in a different color. Okay? So I'm just adding the factors in. Important to keep this 0 there. All right? Then we're going to go ahead and group. So group 1. All right? I have to find my greatest common factor here. So my greatest common factor between 2 and 8 is 2. And both terms have an x, so I'm also going to take an x out. Now, in order to find what 2x times, I need to get 2x squared. So 2x times x gives me 2x squared. What number do I need to multiply 2x by to get a -8? Is a -4. So group 1 is done. Then I'm going to come over to group 2. Okay? In group 2, I'm going to take out the greatest common factor here, which is 10. 10 times x gives me 10x. What number do I need to multiply 10 by in order to get -40? a -4. Don't forget your equals to 0. Okay? Now that we have both of these parentheses matching, okay, we know that we're on the right answer, and I can make my parentheses. So x minus 4, so the matching parenthesis goes in one, and then the outside terms go in the other. So 2x plus 10. Don't forget to equal it to 0. Okay? Here we are now at the zero product property. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and set both of my parentheses up to 0 and then solve. Okay? On this first side, I'm just going to add 4 to both sides. X will equal 4. On this side, I'm going to subtract 10. These will cancel out. 2x equals -10. And then I'm going to divide each by a 2. These 2's will cancel out, and x equals -5. Okay? So those are my two solutions there. All right? On to number 11. Now, my first question I need to ask myself, is this in standard form? No, this does not look like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? So I need to get that right side of the equal sign to look like 0. So in order to do that, I need to add 18 to both sides, okay? This will cancel out and get 0. So now I have 5x squared minus 21x plus 18 equals 0. Now I am in standard form, all right? So now I can list A, B, and C. So A equals 5, B equals -21, and C equals 18. Go ahead and multiply 5 times 18, which gives me 90. And now we're going to find the factors. So here we have a positive A times C, but a negative B. So all I need to list are the negative factors, okay? The negative factors. So the easy one is -1, -90. Then I have -2 and -45. Then I have -3 and -30. Then I have -5 and -18. Then I have -6, -15, and -9 and -10. Now I need to find which one of those factor pairs adds up to give me a -21. And I know that it's this one. All right? So now that I've picked my factor pairs, we're all set to go ahead and substitute back in. So same thing, I'm going to keep the original in the black ink. And now I'm going to change. Now here, make sure you're putting the correct factor pair with the correct initial part of your problem. So I don't want to put a 6 here, the -6, because I can't factor anything out there, right? There's no greatest common factor. But if I put a -15x, now I do have a greatest common factor, okay? And then I'll follow that up with -6x, and then plus 18 equals 0. All right? Now that we're set, we can go ahead and group. So I'm going to group the first together. And here I see that my greatest common factor is 5x. Okay? Then I need to go ahead and multiply. What do I need to multiply 5x by to get x squared? That would just be x. Okay? And then what do I need to multiply 5x by in order to get -15x? And that would just be a -3. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and look at group 2. I see a negative sign in the front of the problem, so I'm immediately going to take out a negative, okay? And then my greatest common factor between 6 and 18 is 6. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out, all right? Then I'm going to draw my parenthesis because both terms do not have an x, so I cannot take an x out here, all right? So what do I need to multiply -6 by to get -6x? That's easy, just an x, okay? And what do I need to multiply -6 by to get a positive 18? Now a negative times a negative gives me a positive, and that's just going to be filled in with a 3. Okay? So, and then don't forget, see I almost forgot, keep your 0. All right? Now my parentheses match. So that means I can go ahead and write the ending parentheses is x minus 3 because those match. And then I'm using the outside terms to make my other parenthesis, keeping it equal to 0. All right? Now here, I have zero product property. So I can go ahead and set my parentheses equal to 0, okay? Equal to 0. Then I'm going to go ahead, in order to solve these, I'm going to add 3 on this side. X equals 3. On this side, that's a 2 steps, so the first thing I'm going to do is add 6, add 6. My 6's will cancel, and I'm left with 5x equals 6. And then in order to get x by itself, I need to go ahead and divide each side by 5, and my final answer will be 6 over 5. Okay? So those are my 2 answers there, my 2 solutions on that problem. I'm going to go ahead and go over to number 12. Now, same thing, this is not in standard form, so I need to get that 14 to the opposite side. In order to do that, I need to subtract 14x from both sides. Okay, I'm doing the opposite operation. These will cancel out, and I'm left with 3x squared minus 14x plus 16 equals 0. And now this looks like standard form. So I'm going to go ahead and list A, B, and C. Okay, so A is 3, B is 14, negative 14, and C is positive 16. Okay, now that I've done that, I can go ahead and multiply A times C, and in this case, 3 times 16 is 48. Okay, so once again, we have a positive A times C, but a negative B, so all I'm going to do is list the negative factors. Okay, so my negative factors include negative 1, negative 48, negative 2, negative 24, negative 3, negative 16, negative 4, negative 12, and negative 6, and negative 8. All right? Now, I need to find which one of those factor pairs, so which one of these adds up to give me a negative 14, and that will be my last one. Okay? All right, and then use my black ink to write the original, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill in with the factor pairs that I chose, okay? It's important to write it this way because an 8 and a 3 and a 6 and a 16 would not have greatest common factors, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and group. For my first one here, my first group, my GCF is a 3x, okay? Then I'm going to draw my parentheses. What do I need to multiply 3x by to get 3x squared? I know that it's just x. And then what do I need to multiply 3x by to get negative 6x, which is just a negative 2. Okay? Now I'm looking at group 2. I see that negative sign in front, so I immediately know that I could take out a negative. Okay? Now, my greatest common factor is indeed 8. Okay? So go ahead, draw your parentheses, keep it equal to 0. What do I need to multiply negative 8 by to get a negative 8x? It's just missing the x, so put an x there. And negative 8 times what gives me positive 16? Negative 2. So my parentheses match. Okay? So that means that I can go ahead and write them down. X minus 2, so the matching parenthesis in one, and then the outside terms in the other. Make sure we set it equal to 0. 0 product property. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and write my x minus 2 equals 0, and 3x minus 8 equals 0. Okay? On this side, I'm just going to add 2 to both sides, and x is going to be equal to 2. Okay? On the other one, I need to first add 8 to both sides, and 3x now equals 8, and then divide by 3 to get x by itself, and x equals 8 over 3. So that is one solution, and x equals 2 is one solution. All right? If you need some help on that one, stay there and rewatch. Now I'm on number 13. Okay, this is not in standard form, so I need to figure out what I need to do. I need to get that 2x to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add 2x to both sides. Now I want to keep it with the common factor, okay? So 2x squared plus 16x plus 30 now equals 0 because those cancel out. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and label A is 2, B is 16, and C is 30. Okay, so my next step is then to multiply A times C, which in this case will be 60. Okay, now I have a positive a times c and a positive b. So all I need to do is list the positive factors. Okay, so 1, 60, 2, 30, 3, 20, 4, 15, 5, 12, and 6, and 10. Okay, and then we're going to find which one of those factor pairs adds up to give me 16, and I know it's this bottom one. That was an easy one. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill back in. So 2x squared plus 6x plus 10x plus 30 equals 0. Okay? And then I'm going to just go ahead and group. So I'm grouping now. So my first group, my GCF here is 2x. I need to multiply 2x by x to get x squared, and 2x times a positive 3 to get a positive 6x. Now I'm looking at group 2, okay? I need to factor out my GCF, which in this case is 10. There's no x because 30 doesn't have an x. Okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and, what do I need to multiply 10 by to get 10x? Just x. And what do I need to multiply 10 by to get 30? A positive 3. And then make sure you keep your 0. That is important. Okay? Now, my parentheses match, so I can go ahead and write x plus 3 and 1, and then take my outside terms and write 2x plus 10, and important to keep that 0. Okay? Now I have the zero product property. Now with the zero product property, all that means is I could set my parentheses equal to 0. So x plus 3 equals 0, and 2x plus 10 equals 0. Okay? And then all I'm going to do is go ahead and solve. So on this first one, I need to subtract 3 from both sides, and I'm left with x equals negative 3. That is one solution to this problem. On the other side, I need to subtract 10 first. So I'm subtracting 10 from both sides. I have 2x equals negative 10. Okay? And in order to get x by itself, I'm dividing by 2. So these cancel out, and negative 10 divided by 2 is a negative 5. So those are my two solutions for number 13. Okay? On to number 14. This is already in standard form. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply or label my A. 2, B, negative 4, C, negative 6. A times C is a negative 12. Okay, so I need to go ahead and list both factor pairs of negative 12. Okay, so that means 1 and negative 12, negative 1 and 12. 2 and negative 6, negative 2 and 6. 3 and negative 4, and negative 3 and 4. Okay, then I need to find which one of these factor pairs adds up to give me a negative 4, because that's B, and I am choosing this one, because 2 plus negative 6 gives me a negative 4. Okay, now that I've chosen my factor pairs, I'm going to go ahead and plug back into my original quadratic function. So 2x squared plus 2x minus 6x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to go ahead and group. Okay, so my first group, I'm grouping here. These two are easy, okay? So my GCF here is 2x. In order to get 2x squared, I need to multiply 2x by x. And in order to get 2x, I just need to multiply 2x by 1. Okay? Sorry, I'm going to make that a little neater for you guys. Now I'm looking at group 2. Now I notice here, the first thing I notice is that there is a negative for both terms. So I'm going to go ahead and immediately take out a negative. Now, what is the GCF of 6 and 6? Easy, 6. Okay? Equals to 0. Now, in order to fill my parentheses, what do I need to multiply negative 6 by to get negative 6x? Just an x. And negative 6 times what gives me negative 6? A positive 1. Okay? So, now, my parentheses match. Okay? So I can go ahead and write one set of parentheses as x plus 1. And the other set of parentheses as 2x minus 6. Don't forget to keep that 0. Now, we are at the zero product property. All right? So when we're at the zero product property, we could set both of these parentheses up to 0. Set them up. And then go ahead and solve. So on this first one, I just need to subtract 1 from both sides. They'll cancel, and x equals negative 1. all right? Then I'm going to go ahead and add 6 to both sides, all right? So 2x, these 6's cancel, equals 6. And then to get x by itself, I need to divide by 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So x equals 3 and x equals -1 are my solutions, all right? All right, last two, on to number 4, okay? Number 15. So we are in standard form, so what I can go ahead and do is just label A, B, and C. So A equals 4, B equals 4, C equals 1. So then multiply A times C, and that's 4. My B is positive, so I only need to list the positive factors. So that's 1 and 4 and 2 and 2, okay? Now, which one of these adds up to give me a positive 4? That's easy, 2 and 2, okay? So I'm going to go back in and substitute in. 4x plus 2x plus 1 equals 0. Okay? I'm then going to go ahead and group. So what is my GCF for this first group? It's a 2 and always an x on the first one. Okay? They both have x. I'm going to draw my parentheses. What do I need to multiply 2x by to get 4x squared? I know I definitely need a 2, but also I need an x to get x squared. Then what do I need to multiply 2x by to get 2x? Just a positive 1. All right? Now I'm looking on the other side, all right? What's my GCF for this group? This is a little bit different, okay? Reminder, you cannot divide 1 by 2. I know what you want to put is 2, but my GCF is 1. Okay? Then what do I need to multiply 1 by to get 2x? 2x. And what do I need to multiply 1 by to get 1? So that one was kind of easy. Equal to 0. My parentheses match, So I can go ahead and put the pair in 1 and the outside in 1. Equal to 0. Zero product property means I can go ahead and set each parenthesis to 0. Okay? And then go ahead and solve. 2x equals -1, divide by 2, and x equals -1 half. Now, notice they are the same thing. I want you to go ahead and solve, okay? So you're going to subtract 1 from both sides. 2x equals -half. Divide by 2. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the gun. Is a -1. Then divide by 2. These 2's will cancel. And x equals -1 half. Now, notice that these are the same answers, okay? So in this problem, we would only have one solution. So my one solution answer here would be x equals -1 half. I only have one solution because they're the same number, all right? They're the same exact number. So I'm going to go ahead and go on. So we only have one solution, and that one solution is this answer here, all right? I'm going to go ahead and go to number 16. This is our last one, all right? We are already in standard form, so I can go ahead and list A equals 7, B equals 18, and C equals -40. Now this one's a bit of a tricky one because it's going to be a high number, all right? So A times C, so 7 times -40 is a -280, okay? I'm going to move this over a little bit so I have some room. Now remember, with a negative, you have to write both sets of pairs. I know it's a lot, but it's what we got to do, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and write my pairs. So 1 and -280. And -1 and a +280. Okay? Sorry, I'm going to move this over a little bit for right now, and then I'll go back, okay? And then I'll have a 2 and a -140. Right? I think. Let me make sure on that one. That doesn't look right. Yep, that's right, okay? And then a -2 and a +140. And then a +4 and a -70, and a -4 and a +70. And a 5 and a -56, and a -5 and a +56. And a 7 and a -40, and a -7 and a 40. And an 8 and a -35, and a -8 and a +35. And then lastly, 10 and -28, and -10 and +28. Okay? Now, which one of these pairs out of all these adds up to give me a positive 18, okay? It ends up being that one. So we're going to go back over and we're going to plug in, okay? So my initial quadratic started with a 7x squared. Now, this is important. If I put a 10x there, will a 7 and a 10 factor out of GCF? The answer is no, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put the positive 28 first. So the positive 28x, then the negative 10x, then go back to our original equation with negative 40 equals 0, okay? And now we are at the point where we can group. So I'm going to go ahead and group the first one together. What is my GCF here? It is a 7x. Parenthesis, parenthesis. What do I need to multiply 7x by to get 7x squared? That's just an x. And what do I need to multiply 7x by to get a positive 28? That is a positive 4. Okay? Now I'm on to group 2. They both have a negative, so go ahead and factor out a negative. And now my GCF of 10 and 40 is a 10. So go ahead, write your parentheses. Negative 10 times what gives me negative 10x? Just an x. And negative 10 times what gives me a negative 40. So I need a positive number, so that will be a positive 4. Okay? Don't forget to write your 0. Okay? My parentheses match. So I know that I can go ahead and write one set of parentheses as x plus 4 and the other as 7x minus 10. Don't forget to keep it equal to 0. We are at our 0 product property. Okay? So when we have 0 product property, we could set both of those parentheses up to 0. So x plus 4 equals 0 and 7x minus 10 equals 0. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. Okay? And this answer is x equals negative 4. Now I need to go ahead and solve the other side. I'm going to add 10 to both sides. My 10s will cancel out. 7x equals a positive 10. And then go ahead and divide each side by 7. My 7s will cancel out. And your other solution is x equals 10 over 7. And that is all for those 10 problems. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know.